What's going on, everybody? It's Chris here, back with another episode of Learning R with Chris. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to actually load in data from a CSV into R so you can do some work with your data. So basically, on your computer, you have some CSV located somewhere in your file system, and you want to get that into R. So for me, it's in this path here. And you can see we have the shop.csv here. So for those of you who watched the last video, you'll remember this. So this is kind of a little example of data. So basically it's like a little grocery store or something that has food items which have a price. And then this is a logical value denoting whether that item is healthy or not. Debatably, if you any nutritionists, viewers, don't call me out. I'm not exactly an expert. And then the department that item's from. And this data is available to you guys as well in the description. So if you want to download that and follow along, then you can feel free to. All right. So basically what you'll want to do, just start an R here. And as we usually do, we're going to load in the tidyverse. So once you have that loaded in, then we can go ahead and start reading our data. So basically, you'll want to get the path where this file is located on your computer. So for me on Windows, that's you just press this copy path button, and that'll copy that for you. And then you'll want to type read CSV. So this is the function that'll actually read the file from your computer. And then you can paste in that path. And R does not like the backslashes, so you'll want to go ahead and switch those with forward slashes. And there we go, we can just plug that in. R tells us that it successfully parsed into a Tibble with these column names and these types. So you can see for now, it thought that the column names was actually the first row of the data, so that's not really good. So to fix that, we can say the column names, that is false, so we don't have column names. And then there you go. It'll give us these kind of temporary names, so we'll fix that later. All right, so this is a bit wordy, right? Like you might not want to specify the entire path sometimes. So to fix that, we basically have to tell R in another way where the file is. So if we go to session and then set working directory, so this is like where we're going to be working from, where the file is going to be located. So then we go to the same path where our data is, press open, and then you can see R type that command in for us. And there we go. Now, more simply, we can just get rid of this entire path name and just include the file name there. And we can leave the columns are false, and that'll give us the exact same thing as before. So that's nice. So if you want column names, so the reason that R chose the first row to be the column names originally is because it actually expects in your CSV for the first row to be the names, right? So if we put something like this column's name is item, the second column's name is price, third is like healthy, and then the fourth is the department. If we did something like that, and then save our CSV, and if we try that again, but we can now remove this argument because we do have column names. There we go. Then we can see we get the exact same thing, right? So it actually read this as the 4 column names and then subsequently read the rest of the data. So that's really nice. So more usefully, we might want to actually assign this to a variable, because if we're going to be working with our data in the future and using functions with our data, then we're going to want to instantiate this, right? So we do that. And so now it's in this variable. You can see that up in my environment here. We have our shop Tibble, and it tells us nicely the number of observations and variables. You can even click on it to get like a nice view here to get more of a natural view of what your data actually looks like with all the different instances and variables. So that's cool. So now I'll show you guys like a couple functions to also take a look at your data. So if you use this glimpse function, it'll give you kind of the essential information that you'd want to know about the Tibble there. So we have 13 observations, which means 13 rows. We have 4 variables or 4 columns, and then it'll list each of the columns and give you the data type associated with that column, and then I give you a few examples just so you guys can like get an idea of what you're working with and stuff. So that's nice there. Another function, pretty useful, just if you just want to know like the number of rows, then you can do that as well. And then I guess I should also mention that if you say you don't really have the option to put an extra row at the start of your data, like say, I don't know, you're working with other people and they want to leave the data as is, right? Like they don't want to put a row of column names first. Then you can actually load in the data as we did before with the read CSV function, with the shop.csv, but we can say again that we don't have column names, and then so you can click on this here and we see that we have like the x1 through x4 names here, which aren't very informative for us. Like if we try to index into our shop Tibble here, then like who's gonna know what these mean, right, without memorizing it? So to give it some names without actually modifying the CSV, you can say use this names function. So I'm saying the names of my shop Tibble, I want to assign that this character vector with, and then you'll want to give it in order the names of your columns. So for us, that was item, and then price, if the item was healthy or not, and then the name of the department that that item belongs to. There we go. And now, if we take another look, we see that we have the nice column names as we did before. So there you go. That's kind of like the essentials of loading your data into R, and then how you might want to like take a look at what's going on inside the data as well. And in the next video, we're going to be talking about how to actually work with the data. So if we take a look again, maybe you'll want to look at just the rows where your items are healthy, or maybe you want to look at only rows where the price is above a certain amount, or different combinations of those two things, or anything like that. Even like renaming the columns and tons of useful functions. So in the next video, stay tuned for that, because that's what we'll be talking about. So until then, have a good one, and we'll see you in the next one.